Welcome to CrossTalk with Sarah Cross, a place for radio wanderers to learn about the highest laws and other related topics, with the occasional stroll through more relaxed notions. Now here's your host, Sarah Cross.
Okay, and welcome to CrossTalk. I'm your host, Sarah Cross, and today I've got an exciting show for everybody, so stay tuned. First, I want to give a big shout out to Revolution Radio. Go and check out their website and all the great hosts, and if you could throw a few bucks their way, that always goes a long way in showing your support to a platform dedicated to free speech. This week on Crosstalk, we have Will Keller and Logan Hart, both of which are on the One Great Work Network, and founders of the Ostara Hydrogen system. And you can find this here. I'm going to add a link for you guys into our chat room, so you can go and explore their work a little bit more through their link tree. And we'll also add the links for Will and Keller's website, Will and Logan's websites as well, so you can find out more about them later. So as usual, please feel free to message me with your questions or your ideas into the chat room, or you can always send me an email as well. That's sarahcrossart@gmail.com. And so let's get started with today's main topic today. And we have Will Keller and Logan Hart on. If you guys are ready to unmute and just introduce yourselves and, talk a little bit about your work real quick, and then we can go into a start, because I'm looking real forward to that.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for having us on. My name's Will Keller, and my individual website is willkeller.com. Public speaker, talking about natural law, spiritual development, and also this venture that my good friend and partner, Logan, and we will talk about that today. So I'm excited to be here, and thanks for everyone tuning in.
Yeah, great to be here. Can y'all hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. So I'm Logan Hart. I'm in the middle of some truck driving duties, so I'm doing my best to be present. I might be in and out a little bit during this show, but yeah, super excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Sarah. And very similar to Will, I have also a background in just speaking truth, sharing about principles and freedom and the way the universe operates, mostly through my platform called The Wizard Factory. And then Will and I joined forces as kindred spirits for this joint venture of helping improve and revolutionizing people's health through Ostara.
Yeah, and I want to know more about that. I watched your launch when it came out, and it had so much information packed in there, and it would just be so helpful for people to understand these sides of, natural outlets for health that might actually just improve in their health. So that it doesn't get to anything worse than that. So could we maybe start with an explanation of the, history, the origin story of Ostara, and what encouraged you to really do this?
Yeah, for sure. I think it might be good for us to kind of talk about our individual journeys and then the convergence point of Logan and I, and then we can kind of go from there. So I discovered about 12 years ago, I was, a few years into my journey of truth discovery and higher awareness. And I was dealing with some autoimmune issues as well from, vaccine damage. So I was seeking answers and clarity. Obviously, the mainstream allopathic medical system was just saying, "Oh, it's hereditary. It can skip generations, and you have it, and it's something you're born with, and you're going to have it for life, and you got to get on these medications and all, the typical type of stuff that the Western allopathic system does." And I definitely wasn't satisfied for that. And understanding that the medical system is largely fraudulent and just lacks a lot of critical information of causal factors. And very synchronistically, I came across one of my good friends at the time introduced me to something called hydrogen water. And this was about 2012, early 2012. And I started drinking that, and I saw huge benefits, not only externally on the skin, but internally, even cognitive, functions, clarity, all this kind of stuff. So I was immediately blown away about the benefits that I was experiencing, and kind of teamed up with him and kind of interjected into the communities and the research circles, and got a closer glimpse of the mechanics of the devices that were producing hydrogen water. And that was a great process of learning the basics, which I think we're going to talk about today, which is extremely important, because through that journey, over the next few years, we learned a lot of misdirection, a lot of unethical practices as well in some of the companies and the circles, and really focused on the truth of what is molecular hydrogen, the science, the research, the mechanisms in the body. And that was, the path for many, many years. Even when I separated, my path split from my partner back then, I still continued to follow the research and the science and engage in hydrogen therapy, which I've seen some excellent benefits from that. And then, fast forward to the last, year and a half. Logan and I have been friends for a while, but, him and I, our paths crossed in the same umbrella of molecular hydrogen, which he has a background in as well. And just through conversation, we decided to take action. I mean, this type of information must be known. It must be educated correctly to the public. And it's something that is gaining a lot of steam and awareness. And we definitely feel like we are pioneers in this industry and this journey of awareness. And, we're looking forward to, bringing a lot to the table.
Yeah, that's great. Love to hear Logan's side of that too, but I fully agree. I talk about that kind of stuff all the time with the medical industry at large is quite fraudulent, and it's looked upon as some sort of method of it, like it's a special thing or whatever, but really it's just a bunch of people who are studying medical science, and largely that's on theory. So, and people are confused why the medical system can't always help them. And it's because it's disconnected from stuff like this that actually can be quite helpful. So in all the years that I've had to deal with it, I could seriously count a handful of things on one hand of things that have been truly beneficial to health. And that's sad. So just on that note, I want to get Logan's side of this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Will did a really great job setting that up. And as he said, I have my own background in hydrogen, though I would say Will's was a little more in depth than mine. I kind of came into it through the Kangen water industry. So similar to Will in that way, but I had never heard of hydrogen or any of this stuff until that point. And so you could say it was kind of like not the best way to get initiated into it, because as Will mentioned, there's some not ideal best practices being used. There's a little bit of deception going on, and the technology has its certain issues with that particular route. And so that basically planted the seed for me, but I didn't really go super far with it because something didn't really sit right with me, and I didn't quite know why. But then as Will and I were discussing this more in depth, and he was sort of enlightening me into those problems and more the mechanics of why it's not the best, it made a lot of sense to me. But the passion that we had for the hydrogen itself was always there. It's just that the path that we started on wasn't the right path, and that's kind of where it all started to bloom into this idea, because we knew what we knew about hydrogen. We knew it could really help a lot of people, and that there's just not a lot of awareness about it yet. And so that almost I forget the word just that discrepancy between the power and the potential of it and the lack of awareness, it just made so much sense for us to step onto the battlefield and try to be ones who, instead of being passive, like taking an active role in trying to educate people on this, to bring awareness, and as we'll talk about later, access and activation. That is kind of our threefold mission statement with Ostara.
Well said, Logan. I kind of want to add a little bit to that because I think it's important. Logan and I, we function individually, and in Ostara, this is part of our principles of truth, integrity, transparency, and talking about our past and talking about some of the issues in the industry, the communities, the circles, the misdirection and the misinformation is important. And that's kind of part of what fuels our drive. Molecular hydrogen itself, hydrogen therapy, is proven. It's impactful. It's incredible. Everyone's going to hear about it in the coming years, right? It's gaining a lot of traction for sure. So, but with like any type of endeavor, there's always going to be the issues that come with it. So it's good to point out those negative issues and clear the air, and you do that through education. And that's a big part of our goal as well. Correct education and awareness. And I think in both of our pasts, and we can dive even deeper into that, because I gained incredible insight in the industries and the direction that people were going, and the misinformation. It's like using that process of apophysis, right? To know the negative will give you clarity on the affirmative and on the positive, the true and the correct. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Transparency is really good.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because it's kind of like we have two different tasks at hand with what we're stepping into. Is it's a lot easier to educate someone who's completely ignorant or nescient to an idea. It's a lot harder to educate them when they have false ideas about it that they think that they know, and you're having to work against that. And there are a lot of misconceptions around hydrogen, the water versus just the actual molecule, and the water is just the delivery system, or the one of several ways to deliver the molecule into the body. The alkalinity topic that is really also not relevant to the therapeutic benefits of hydrogen itself, and many more like that. And so that's kind of what we have to do, is almost uneducate and then re-educate people on these topics.
Yeah, I would. Excuse me. Yeah, I would agree with that. It can be very difficult to give somebody some information, especially when it comes to anything medical or healthcare related. Because we have a system that's designed to kind of trap us into this world where misinformation is kind of running the show, and you've got people who are like on all different experiences. So even people who are not trying to spread misinformation purposefully, they get an idea into their head and then they think that's it, like that's the truth, but a lot of times there's no research, there's no backing it up. So but I mean, with my experience, I have found that even though this is slightly different, hydrogen therapy is a little bit more of a higher tier than just oxygen therapy. So, and I know when I started going on oxygen therapy, it really increased my health dramatically. And so I want to just go into really quick, if you could explain a bit how the hydrogen therapy works and a little bit of the science behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe before we should talk about hydrogen itself, because there's a lot of incorrect information when we use a term like molecular hydrogen or hydrogen therapy. And I think, diving into the basics is important of, well, what is hydrogen itself? Not that many people know that there are 4 types of hydrogen. So, usually when you think of hydrogen, you think of like water or, the hydrogen bomb or energy, like fuel, combustion. But hydrogen itself, it's the most abundant element, right? So it's the first element on the periodic table. It's the smallest and lightest element. It comprises 95% of the universe. It's in everything. Even light itself is high hydrogen. It's so we're talking about something that is a building block of the universe itself. So it exists it's a gas form, and it's essential for life. It's a vital role of even the human body. We are comprised of 6% hydrogen. We develop hydrogen in the body itself, in the guts, right? This is why it's good to get your fiber to get the H2 development going in the body. So it's a neutral element as well. So, when you think of protons and electrons, a negative charge, a positive charge, hydrogen itself is a neutral charge. So when we say molecular hydrogen, we are obviously talking about a molecule, which is multiple atoms bonded together. So what molecular hydrogen is, it's 2 hydrogen atoms bonded together, meaning that they are sharing their electrons, and that has the neutral charge. So molecular hydrogen, obviously, it's the smallest molecule. So when you think about therapy, it can penetrate every level of the body. Every level, not just your tissues, the blood-brain barrier, the cellular walls, the nucleus. I'm talking about the mitochondria, your genetic expression, etc. So it's extremely small, and it's colorless, it's odorless, it's tasteless, and of course, hydrogen atoms, of course, is flammable. But when we talk about molecular hydrogen, it is a neutral charge. It is only flammable when it gets up to a certain high concentration. So, and even then, it's only flammable when it's mixed with oxygen. When it's mixed with a liquid, it is not flammable whatsoever. So in molecular hydrogen, the type of devices and the therapy that we are talking about, that concentration is only around, from 1 to 3%. So the flammability is 8, 9, 10% and higher. So we're talking about a lower level of hydrogen concentration. And that's good to, kind of mention, because a lot of people think of hydrogen, they think of the combustibility of it, etc. So Logan, you can jump in, because I can rant and ramble on this. You could jump in at any time. Maybe Logan can go right into the therapy aspect of it. Like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to. And as I said, I'm getting ready to have to handle some things here in a minute, but I will remain involved as much as possible. But so hydrogen therapy is simply the introduction of that molecular hydrogen, that H2 molecule, into the body. And so there's multiple ways you can get that. And the most, I would say, common and effective, or convenient even, would be to dissolve it into water and drink it, or to just breathe the H2 gas directly through a cannula. And when you do this, you then saturate your body completely with the hydrogen. And as Will said, it's so small, it can go all through the body. It goes through your bloodstream. It goes deep into the cells, into the mitochondria, the DNA, everything. And it has a number of functions that are beneficial to health. But I would say probably the biggest one is that it regulates your body at the systemic level. So instead of, like, say, some sort of antioxidant that just goes around attacking free radicals a one-on-one, like a grunt on the battlefield, it's more like a general that's directing the troops from afar, that can see the big picture and can command the different systems of the body in that way. And this basically makes it extremely adaptogenic, meaning that it goes where it's needed, where it's most effective, and is helping to regulate the cells in terms of repair and or self-destruction, right? So somehow it's known as the smart molecule. So what that means is it somehow has this intelligence to it where it can determine whether a cell is extremely damaged and the body's energy would be best spent by just self-destructing that cell to free up those resources. Or if it's only slightly damaged, then it can basically send energy to that cell to repair it. So this has implications for many, many diseases, including cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes. And one of the underlying aspects of this is that it manages inflammation. It is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory and selective antioxidants that we have discovered, essentially. So some of you may know that, just inflammation alone is one of the most common root causes of all chronic disease. So that right there is going to have a profound effect on many pre-existing conditions. And then the selective antioxidant part, what the selective means is, again, with that smart, with that intelligence to it, is that it can lock in on just the most harmful free radicals called hydroxyl radicals. And it doesn't overdo the job, because, believe it or not, there is a such thing as too low in terms of, like, your body basically needs a certain level of oxidative stress to remain in homeostasis, because that's what health is all about. That's one of those fundamental things to understand about the human body, is that all disease is a form of imbalance. When things start getting out of whack, it throws other things out of whack, and that's how nature operates, right? Nature is all about balance, and your body is just a microcosm of a natural ecosystem. And so maintaining health and reversing illnesses is simply reversing those imbalances and bringing things back into that homeostasis where everything is balanced and it's working the way it's supposed to work. So that's kind of a good introduction, I would say.
Well said. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and then I'll just add something that's really important because Logan touched on it. Now, when almost anything in reality, as far as what we can take, supplements, even air, oxygen itself, has some form of cytotoxic effect, right? You can drink too much water and it can be deadly. Getting too much oxygen, right, creates oxidative stress, which increases aging and the uptick of inflammation as well. Vitamin C, there is a cytotoxic level, right? And there's an oversaturation. The science and the research has proven that this natural, abundant building block of the universe, molecular hydrogen, has zero cytotoxic effects, meaning you could take molecular hydrogen therapy all day, all night, for the rest of your life, every day on there. And there has been studies where people have done, full-on 24-hour cycles for weeks and weeks at a time, and there's zero cytotoxic effects. Number one, because it's the smallest molecule. Your body absorbs, takes what it needs, and then it just simply dissipates out of the body through your pores, your skin. You exhale the excess H2. So that's pretty profound in itself right there. And then amongst many other things that we can kind of talk about, but I'll let you jump in, Sarah.
No, yeah, I love the science behind this kind of stuff, and I think it needs to be more mainstream and more well accepted. And I have to give some credit to some of the larger medical institutions that are out there, because they are starting to slowly accept more of this type of information, this type of science. And not everybody is there, of course, but like, say, a place like UCLA, they've got like a whole wing now just for like acupuncture therapy. So they're starting to bring in more natural stuff, which I can appreciate that effort, and I hope to see more of this increase in a healthier acceptance of more natural medicine, because we need to balance that out. And I think that's interesting what you're saying about inflammation. Inflammation is an interesting problem, and that you're talking about how this can help with the inflammation side of health problems. The research I've done on inflammation, and I've had doctors who are specialists tell me inflammation can cause serious problems, like when your organs and the inside of your body is inflamed and swells up, it can cause dysfunction in the system. So to have natural methods of relieving that, your body will start to function more optimally. And I've learned that myself through experience, through dealing with inflammation alone, has allowed all sorts of health benefits, like where things just, I stopped experience negative problems due to the lack of inflammation in the body. So I think that's really important. People should look more into that, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, great points. I mean, like Logan talked about balance and homeostasis, and I mean the body itself is like the ultimate biological not only healing machine, but it wants to remain in homeostasis. It wants balance, like all things in nature, right? There's the good and the bad, and it wants that middle path. So as human beings, having a little bit of that stress, oxidative stress and inflammation is healthy at certain levels in that balanced state for the body to operate correctly. Right? I mean, there is a difference, even observing our own lives when it's crunch time, or an example would be exercise, right? You're in the gym or you're running a 5K. That's extreme, oxidative stress and stress to the body, but it has profound positive effects to the body itself. Now, you can work out too much. You can run too much where it's chronic and it's constant to the body. But if the body isn't in that balanced state, it cannot bring itself back to homeostasis, to that place of rest, that plane of inertia, where it can heal itself from the stress that was caused. It's just like working out, right? If you need to work out to gain muscle, but you also need that rest for repair. And that rest and repair is when the growth of the muscles happen and the strength really kicks in. So it is all about balance. And I like to call molecular hydrogen therapy as the ultimate adaptogen and assistance, because your body is doing the healing and the balancing. The molecular hydrogen is the activation and the aid for what your body needs to do what it does best, and that is regulate itself, heal itself, protect itself, etc.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up as well. You can overdo it with things like, especially with exercise. Like, I know with exercise, when you exercise, like people who do it all the time, like how it works, as far as I understand, is you're sort of ripping your muscles apart a little bit, and then you have to take time to heal so that the muscle rebuilds stronger. As far as I understand how that works. So it would make sense that your body has to do that with everything else as well. And then that's how you heal yourself. So I was just wondering, I had a thought too, that people who are very active normally, would hydrogen therapy, a system like this, like say they're exercising for like a few hours, and would it help in the healing process to then do like a session with hydrogen therapy afterwards, and that might help increase the level of healing that takes place, with any major activity that somebody would do? Would that help to increase the health benefits and decrease even the time it takes to heal, if that makes sense?
100%. There's ample studies and research showing, molecular hydrogen therapy is, a lot of its kind of, gardening awareness has came through athletics as well, and recovery. So doing a session before workout will increase the workout itself. The body's ability to work out, and for endurance and longevity, but also the recovery process can be limited, can be cut down to half, because you're giving your body exactly what it needs for it to heal itself and recover. So there's, and I should mention that there's over 3,000 studies. It's increasing monthly, and about 300 to 350 human disease models. So there's a good amount of research and studies, and that's just going to increase as well. But that's a really good, category that you brought up about just the strength, recovery, endurance. There's studies on car accidents and brain damage or head trauma, where it has showed, profound recovery abilities with that. Once we kind of understand, what molecular hydrogen is, but primarily what it does in the body, then we can start to understand that it does not matter what the ailment, the disease, the situation is. Molecular hydrogen benefits it 100%, because it's what it's doing in the body. It's activating and promoting these natural systems that apply to everything that happens to the body, whether it's neurodegenerative, whether it's diabetes, it's cancer, it's just general toxicity, and just general wellness and well-being, or if it's recovery, just athletic recovery. So it's pretty profound. I mean, studies with children, infants, women that are pregnant, and how it increased the embryonic fluid, and it aided even the fetus and the unborn baby. It's just profound what it can do. It's just asking it what it can't do is the question, and that's almost slim to none.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something that should be a larger topic with even the medical industry at large, because if it has this kind of benefits, the effects of it could be life-changing for just so many people. And I want to talk. So it's safe to say then this kind of therapy would benefit people who have, like what you're saying, any kind of medical condition, like whether it's cancer or organ problems, or like organ failures, or even stuff like diabetes, or like anything really, it could help benefit, because you're saying that this goes into the very cells and helps to enhance that healing. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And we can even get, super scientific and get into the nitty-gritty, which we should do at some point. But through the research and the science, it picks up all of these labels, right? So it's anti-inflammation, it's anti-allergy, anti-obesity, anti-diabetic, anti-tumor, anti-cellular death, decreases oxidative stress. It improves the immune system, the upregulation of natural antioxidants. It's neuroprotective. It's radioprotective, as in radiation. The increases the mitochondria, the protection and the repair of the mitochondria. It increases ATP, cellular energy, anti-cancer. I mean, there's all those labels, and the list goes on. And that kind of goes back to the point that I was saying, that the benefits are numerous, and they are going to continue to grow as, more trials and disease models come into the mix, and as the research grows. So yeah, it's the reason why it has all those benefits is mainly because of certain functions that it does at the cellular level in the body itself. And another category, even the history of molecular hydrogen is kind of good to talk about. We need to understand that here in the West, we are kind of behind on a lot of research, especially, medical, when it comes to, natural modalities as well. In the East, in Japan, Taiwan, Korea, even China, this molecular hydrogen is way ahead in the public. I mean, you can go to hospitals, and where here in the West, you know, they'll put you on oxygen as almost like a default. There, they put you on a mix. It's O2 and H2. So you're getting molecular hydrogen. So it's well known in the public space in the East, and it is garnering more recognition here in the West. And I think this is where talks like this are important to dispel the myths, to dispel the incorrect information, because there is a lot of that circulating, and that's mainly through certain marketing industries, like the alkaline, quote unquote, alkaline water, excuse me, industry as well. They've had a huge play in, first it's almost a $5 billion industry. So they have, they've dipped their greedy little hands in kind of co-opting a lot of this research and using it as marketing strategies. I mean, you could ask anyone on the street, have you heard of molecular hydrogen therapy? And most people are going to say, no, never heard of it. And then you can ask them, well, have you heard of alkaline water? And they will say, yes, they've heard of alkaline water. Well, that same misinformation has trickled in and has been correlated with hydrogen therapy, which it does not. That is incorrect, right? Hydrogen therapy is not alkaline therapy or anything like that. And I can explain more on why that is, because it's important.
Yeah, that's a good distinction to make, because I think people should know the difference between the different types of water they can access. I know a lot of people who will go for alkaline water. Like, we use a reverse osmosis water in my house currently, because you take everything out of the water and we'll add what we want to add if we want to add it, and we've done that for years. And even just doing that changed how everything, even consuming completely clean water, just on that really changed our health as well, made it, everything even taste better. So to have understand the different types of water that are available to people, I think should be important. But I definitely want to ask about, and we might have to get more into the break with this, but I want to ask about your take on how this functions, like using this type of therapy, and how it will ultimately affect the brain. Because I know with my personal experience that even just, regular oxygen, this has helped the functionality, the general functionality of, my brain, which sounds really weird to say it that way, but it seems like with a lack of oxygen in the system of any kind, I think, and with, the hydrogen therapy definitely sounds like something a little bit, like a higher tier, which could be even better. But just oxygen in the system, having a lack of that can really cause a lot of problems. So I'd like to get your take on hydrogen therapy and how it helps increase, helps your brain capacity generally and your brain health.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Ozone therapy, that absolutely has a lot of benefits, and getting oxygen is therapeutic. Just to kind of dangle on that real quick, the majority of people aren't breathing correctly, right? Not to mention all the toxicity that is in the air. So this is why something like ozone therapy or, oxygen therapy can really benefit people. So that is good to consider as well. Now, of course, some people that breathe correctly and do get clean oxygen, don't have that issue. So with molecular hydrogen, it's something completely separate. Unlike ozone, where ozone could be, it could work against you in certain cases, depending if you have deductive or reductive stress in the body, meaning if you're getting too much oxygen, it will work against you for sure. But with molecular hydrogen, so the neuroprotective properties, number one, mainly, its ability to cross the blood-brain barrier to directly protect the brain itself, right, the cells, and reduce inflammation in the central nervous system. So it balances the neurotransmitters, which, are responsible for stress management and mood, sleep. Sleep's a huge benefit that people see like right off the bat. And it also can alleviate things like anxiety, depression, and other, neurodegenerative issues. But it also enhances the neuroplasticity in the brain. So it increases the brain's ability to adapt, to learn, and to recover, right? So it's incredible, the general uptick of the cognitive performance and emotional well-being. Now, there's one of the main functions that molecular hydrogen does is, aside from crossing the brain barrier and getting down to the cellular level and the mitochondria, right? It activates the NRF2 pathway. So the NRF2 pathway, it plays a crucial role in the human body's defense against oxidative stress and damage. So it regulates the antioxidant response. It activates, the expression of detoxifying modalities and enzymes in the body for, metabolism, removing toxic substances, xenobiotics, etc. And that also, the NRF2, responsible for an inflammatory response. So this is what leads to inflammation as well. So molecular hydrogen, it can regulate and activate the NRF2 pathway, meaning that it can increase the natural antioxidants and enzymes in the body. So, I just lost my train of thought. Anyways, so when it activates that NRF2 pathway, so it can regulate the anti-inflammatory response, which is pretty much going to your central hub of the body itself and the brain, and mitigating your body's own anti-inflammatory responses. So when Logan talked about it being the smart molecule, and research and study is still actively engaging on how does it know? How does this simple, abundant, and essential molecule know the difference between an oxyradical, bad inflammation, or bad oxidative stress, and healthy oxidative stress? And that's primarily through the activation of the NRF2 pathway. And there's other pathways that it activates as well, going to like the gut biome, which has some profound assistance and aid in the regulation of the gut biome as well. But for the brain, though, that pathway, it's dictating how you respond to inflammation and what your body does. That's why I called it the ultimate adaptogen and the ultimate assistance of the body. So that one pathway, it's profound that it is able to do that. So that's its primary function of what it does, for the brain and the body itself. And, that's why it can cognitive performance, clarity, sleep, mood. There's even studies on, schizophrenia and depression and all this having, huge huge effects in those regards.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually amazing. I mean, and it sounds to me that this is something that is it opens a door to everything else. And that's one thing that I've learned through personal experience, that there are some things, that affect the health, and then when you get that right, everything else is going to be just naturally affected. And it can work in the negative way too. You put something not good for your health that's going to affect everything else in your system. So that's interesting to know. We're gonna have a break. We're gonna have a break coming up here in a few minutes. But when we come back, and we can continue on this for a few more minutes, but when we come back, I do want to get into more of the history that you were talking about earlier. And I want to get into what you mentioned earlier about the benefits it could help in correcting vaccine damage. Because I think that that's an important topic to really get into and really just understand that if there is a way to help reduce, at least, even if it doesn't in always every case fix it, the vaccine damage that has taken place on, everybody, really, that's really something amazing. I mean, so continuing on this track a little bit as well, what you were talking about before. Can you still hear me, guys?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Cut out for a second.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think there's some stuff going on. But that's okay. Show must go on. So, Logan has been able to rejoin us again. So if you're there, Logan, maybe you have a couple of things to chime in here on the functionality, like how it helps with the functionality in the system, how it affects the brain and the rest of the body.
Yeah, I'm very much still a student, so I don't consider myself an expert yet. I am working on that, and I'm trying to learn more every day. But to my understanding, yeah, it helps with signaling the cells, the gene expression, and that's going to interact uniquely with each cell, with each string of code. And so as I said, it goes where it's needed, and it doesn't matter. It works, in a sort of a tailored way with whatever system that it's interacting with and dealing with. So if it goes to the brain, it's going to help improve brain function. If it goes to the gut, it can help with digestion and things like that. So that would be my short answer, is that's what makes it so powerful, is so many treatments are so specified, which has its place. If there's one specific problem, then it can be really useful to find something that specifically helps with that thing. But it's also good to have something that is so versatile and almost universal that no matter what the issue is, even if you don't know about it, that's a crazy part, is with the climate, the health climate, the environment that we are all living in this modern age, where we're just so bombarded with toxins and chemicals and carcinogens and things like that, is that even someone who appears healthy might have some sort of disease or multiple diseases or conditions brewing under the surface that they're asymptomatic yet. And by starting something...
Let me just cut you off right there. We're going to pick that up with you, Logan. I want to hear the rest of this. We're coming into the break. Thanks, guys. See you in a few minutes.
All right.
listening to Revolution Radio.
Mountain High Time, 2 hours of an organization to the madness, discussing the ever-changing dynamics of being both physically and mentally prepared for a plethora of possible outcomes to our future and present. A look into the latest technologies, new scientific discoveries, and how they might be used in connection to the human domain and controlling it, ancient cultures and places. Be warned. This is an opinionated look through headlines. Guests that are not afraid to question the narrative. A little bit of crazy ramblings of a stoner conspiracy factus that pushes constitutional concepts. The place and the time are the same, another dimension we call Mountain High Time. Saturdays 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain High Time. Right here on Revolution.radio, where information never sleeps and truth breaks the spell.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
If you're sick of the lies and ready to know thyself, to love thyself, well then tune in to the Lovevolution with your hosts, Amy and John Paul, where we speak all about truth, love, and freedom every Tuesday night, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A, right here on Revolution Radio. And remember, only you can free your mind control. Be a Lovevolutionary.
Alert, listen up now.
Tune into Crypto Corner with Metro 0XE0517.
We talk about decentralization and bank annihilation. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Litecoin, your coin, blockchain, baby. Mondays at 1600 hours Eastern, Studio A.
Deep understanding must arise during these times of unparalleled deceit. A view into the depths of society upon which this country has fallen. A storm upon the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomsluts.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Holder, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And we're back to CrossTalk, and I have Will Keller and Logan Hart from Ostara, both of which are One Great Work Network contributors. I will add that website again into the chat room in a little bit for you folks, so you can go and see everything there is to see there. But today we are talking about Ostara Hydrogen Therapy and the science behind it, what it is, what it does, the benefits it gives. And we were just hearing from Logan about the benefits it contributes to the functionality of it with the body and the brain and everything. So to continue that thought on Logan.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically I was just explaining that in today's world we're exposed to so much toxicity that is always putting a strain on the body, that even someone who is asymptomatic, who appears healthy on the surface, might actually have some serious chronic conditions that are developing. And so having something like hydrogen that is smarter than you are and can go exactly where the problems are, even if you're not aware of them, and begin reversing illnesses and restoring that balance to the body, can be absolutely life-changing in many ways. And you might not even know the extent of how much it can save you on a long enough timeline.
That's an interesting point to bring up. Like there are things that are going dysfunctional, things that happen in our body, and we might never even know it.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, I'm stressing the importance of having a proactive approach to health. Don't wait, like so many people do, until they already have a cancer or some other serious disease to start trying to, now I got to do something about it, now I got to change. That's just not a wise strategy, as I said, especially in today's day and age where there's just so much. It's a very obvious chemical and biological warfare going on, where we're being trying to be exterminated like pests, And so if you don't accept that, if you don't think that's okay, then really the only sane thing to do is, as I said, take a proactive approach of stopping the problem before it even starts, or just staying ahead of the curve, staying ahead of the situation, if you will.
Oh, I agree with that. I try to tell people, I'm like, don't wait until you have a problem to maintain, some semblance of good health. And I know everybody is different, and people can function in all manner of ways, which is what makes human beings and the bodies so resilient. I mean, it can function dysfunctionally, quite well, which is like crazy to think about. But I think that when we put our health together well, and like we take care of our health, we take care of our bodies, we take care of our minds, we take care of our spiritual health, ultimately we're going to end up back on top of things and be able to really experience this world, this reality as we should, and get all the benefits that is out there for us to experience. I feel like when we ignore the physical side of our health, that we really do shut a lot of doors on ourselves, and we do it to ourselves. So yeah, being proactive, I think, is good advice, for people to think about. And that takes personal responsibility. You have to go out and do the research yourself. Yes, get the information from people who are experienced and have studied and know the information, but you have to take personal responsibility for that information and go back it up yourself and then practice it. Not just believe it, but know it for yourself. So I think that's very good advice. I wanted to go into a little bit of what you were talking about earlier, Will, history. If there's like an more in-depth history on hydrogen therapy, what you know about it, and all of that. So,
yeah, no, you guys brought up some really good points. So, the history of, the research of molecular hydrogen is pretty robust. I mean, it goes way back, but as far as the earliest reports of H2's medicinal and medical benefits date back to 1793. But still wasn't clear until later on, about 1931 is where the research of molecular hydrogen therapy through electrolyzed reduced water. So dissolving through a process of electrolysis, splitting the water and dissolving molecular hydrogen gas in the water. That's really the jump off point, 1931, and that was in Japan. So that's when the research really started to accumulate. Now, keep in mind, deep sea divers have been using, hydrogen in, decompression chambers as early as the 40s. Right, to combat like the bends, and to rid and mitigate the oxidation in their blood, so it doesn't go to their brain. About 1975, there was a discovery of the potential therapeutic effects, and this was a study with rats on cancer growth. They saw that H2 had some healing and therapeutic effects, and they were using that in the form of hydrogen hyperbaric therapy. And then, kind of fast forward to 2007 was groundbreaking as far as the science. Dr. Oshawa's team had a groundbreaking 2007 study that revealed 2% hydrogen gas inhalation. So you're breathing the gas, reduced oxidative stress, and neurodegenerative damaged. And that kind of sparked it, widespread research, primarily in the East, but also in the West as well. So that was a groundbreaking study. And then it started to gain recognition. From 2007, you start seeing the ball starts rolling where, companies like I mentioned, the alkaline water industry started using that research as a platform to sell alkaline water. And, there's other companies like Enagic, and a lot of people have heard of Kangen water, use that research as well. And then it's just been, the studies have been, coming in at a consistent rate all the way to now. So that's kind of the brief overview of the history. I think it's important to note, especially for my own personal journey, I came across this in 2012, and then in about 2013, mid to late 2013, was when in the West, the research was undeniable that molecular hydrogen gas was absolutely the therapeutic benefits when it came to the functions of certain devices like water ionizers, right? A water ionizer hooks up to source water like the tap, and then it uses a process of electrolysis to dissolve and bubble the hydrogen gas in the water, and then you would drink it. This is where, alkaline water, this is where they kind of co-op and the deception really, it was already started before then, but most people have seen these alkaline water bottles like Essentia, or the pH 9. It's got a high pH, and it says on the bottle that the water was ionized. So you think you're getting the benefits from its pH, its alkalinity. That is absolutely not the case. And the science and the research proves that with a device like a water ionizer, the therapeutic additive, the therapeutic benefit is 100% the H2, the hydrogen gas that is dissolved in the water. So, and that led to, around 2013, myself and many other people that were kind of aligned in truth and integrity, focused on the facts, the research, even left certain companies and even, certain companies kind of, changed their missions and how they kind of portrayed their company as well. But that time period of that misinformation and that ignorance of causal factors and the therapeutic benefits, we're reaping that today in products like, Kangen water or alkaline water primarily. So that's kind of a good overview of history. And Logan, if you want to add anything or chime in.
I think we lost Logan for a minute.
Oh, gotcha.
So, but no big deal. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. And if people understood history, this is why I am always on about history. And some people like, history doesn't matter, what's the point, and blah, blah, blah. And then even people who tell me that there's no such thing as history, which is wild. But,
yeah.
This is why I think if people understood the history of these things in our world, things would make more sense and more logical sense, and they can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I see now. Because we learn from that. If we're smart, if we're being clever enough, we're going to learn from history if we're paying attention. So I think that's really, really interesting, and I think that if more people understood that, then it would be a lot easier for people to understand the hydrogen therapy itself, and how it's being used and how it could be used and utilized on a large scale.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you for going into that. I wanted to, if you're comfortable with it, I want to go into what you were talking about before with the effects from vaccine damage and how this has helped to increase your health in regard to that.
Oh yeah, at 100%. And a funny kind of an interesting anecdotal story. When I was first coming into this awareness and really diving in deep, my neighbor at my old house, he's from Belarus, and his parents from Russia. And I went over there and I told them about hydrogen water, molecular hydrogen water, and I was drinking it, and it was helping with my autoimmune issue. And he asked me what it was, and I kind of explained, the electrolysis process of, bubbling and dissolving hydrogen gas into water and drinking it. And his dad laughed because he was saying that, oh, we've done that many times. We did that in the past. He was referring to Chernobyl, where the radiation was in the air, and how the populace would combat the radiation sickness and poisoning is that they would take a car battery and they would shock the water, and the water would dissolve, or it would bubble. Right? And that bubbling is the splitting of the water, the oxygen and the hydrogen. So it is dissolving the hydrogen gas in the water, and then they would drink that. And that blew my mind when he told me that story. And that absolutely is the case. And so when it comes to conditions like radiation, 5G, that kind of toxicity, hydrogen therapy absolutely can aid, can help detoxify the body and protect the body. When we think of, vaccine damage, what does vaccine damage, what does it do to the body? Well, it sends the body into a steadfast imbalance of oxidative stress and inflammation. So conditions like autoimmune disorders, mine specifically was psoriasis, right? Getting the patches on your body. That is due to a high level of inflammation and oxidative stress, right? The body is in a state of just compelling, it's like battling itself. It's battling its own inflammation, and it creates more inflammation. That's because of the pathways and the signals in the body are in a dysfunction. So something like molecular hydrogen, how we talked about earlier, how it can mitigate the gene expression and activate and modulate those pathways that control inflammation. Absolutely, when it comes to any type of vaccine damage, there's going to be huge benefits that can help with either reversing or quality of life, right? I mean, we never say anything, oh, it's the cure, because saying something is the cure, it's almost, it's deceptive, right? I mean, we live life, we are absolutely going to be, we're going to come across toxicity. That's what life is. I mean, since you are born, you grow, you age, and then you die, right? So it's not something you can get rid of. You can't just say, oh, I want to be completely immune to toxicity. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to be affected by certain aspects. And going to what Logan was talking about, very elegantly, having that proactive approach where you can educate yourself, you can mitigate certain issues and dangers and toxicity, detoxifying the body. This is where something like molecular hydrogen comes into play, because you are working at that causal level. You are working at the systems level of the body, which this can benefit any type of ailment, disease, and can add protection, repair, and amplify wholeness, all-encompassing wellness of the body.
Yeah. I agree with that. Just really quick, people think there's a quick fix to things, and they want there to be a quick fix, and they want there to be cures, but it just doesn't work that way. And I think it's important that people need to understand that we're in the physical realm in these bodies, and we're going to experience everything that life has to offer, and that includes stuff like what you're talking about, toxicity, health difficulties. I mean, no one, there's nobody out there, including Source or God or whatever people want to refer it to, guaranteeing any kind of security or safety in this world. So I think that's a good point to bring up, that for that we're part of this to experience. So, but to maintain health and maintenance and be proactive is just something that we can do to have a better, cleaner experience while we're here. I think Logan has rejoined us, so if you have something you want to add to that take.
And nothing major, but just off of what Will was saying and tying back to what I was just saying earlier, is I do believe that molecular hydrogen really is that ultimate proactive approach of just something that's very easy to do daily. You're already breathing air, you're already drinking water every single day, so just add a tiny little extra step to it, is going to get you that hydrogen. And, I definitely think it's important what was said about there's no miracle cures. That's not how it works. It's like if your body is malnourished, for example, hydrogen isn't going to help you. You still have that responsibility to take care of yourself. You still need the building blocks of health and nutrition, the nutrients, the minerals and vitamins and everything. But but I do see supplementation as another really good proactive approach. So it's like the best shot that you can have to maintaining not just a long but a quality life is to just stack as many of those proactive daily actions as you can. So supplementing, being active physically, exercising, getting fresh air, getting nature, doing daily hydration.
We may have lost the sound for a minute. He's still there, Logan?
Yeah. My signal's fine. I'm not sure what happened there. Are you hearing?
Yeah, I can hear you. No problem. Me and Will were just going into, before you were able to join us again, me and Will were talking about the positive benefits that this kind of therapy can do for vaccine damage issues. So if you have any thoughts about that, I'd love to hear it.
Not particularly. I'm not sure how much of that you just heard what I was just saying.
Yeah, I think we heard the majority of it, so that's all good. So yeah,
I can dive into more specifics on as far as vaccine damage.
Yeah, let's do it.
There are many studies showing the benefits and for autism right then and there. Now, look, if someone's looking for, I want to see studies specifically on certain adverse, vaccine effects, right? You're not going to find that many, with censorship and understanding how the clinical research is done, right? That costs a lot of money. You need to be in certain labs. So I am confident that we are going to see that in the future. Now that vaccine damage is starting to become more well known. There's more of a demand, and I think there are going to be some. I have heard that there are some clinical trials in process right now. So we will see some of those studies and research data come out in the future. But as far as speculating theoretically on how it can help and how it has benefited things like autism is mainly because of much of what we've already stated, that it's a signaling and modulating molecule where it can go down and activate those pathways, and it can really turn on and off certain gene expressions in the body. In the mitochondria is where it also protects, repairs, and amplifies. So not only is it detoxifying and getting rid of the dead or dying or unhealthy cells through apoptosis, it's increasing the cellular function and health and longevity of the healthy cells. Right? So the ATP, the body itself, like the order of operations for really any disease starts at the base level, the mitochondria. If the mitochondria isn't functioning correctly, you're not going to have the ATP and the cellular energy to repair, maintain, detoxify, heal the body correctly. So the buildup and the inflammation within the body and the toxicity just grows and grows until you get to something like, cancer, which is, the cancer stage is the body is trying to do a last-ditch attempt at mitigating and controlling the vast amount of toxicity imbalance. right? So this is where hydrogen therapy comes in at that root level and at that mitochondria, the gene expression signaling. It's why it's considered a selective antioxidant, because it knows the difference between healthy and healthy and unhealthy, good and bad aspects of the body. So I think it absolutely can aid in that category, and we will see a lot more, evidence of that. Aside from anecdotal evidence, which there is a lot of, myself in particular, I'm someone that experienced it almost immediately. And again, this is a tailor-made therapy, right? That's what makes it so beautiful and profound, is because it's specific to each person. It's going to react and give your body what you need yourself. It's not like vitamin C. Vitamin C does one thing specifically. It does it for every single person, and it doesn't discriminate from good stress, from good free radicals or bad free radicals. It just, it just eliminates, it just does what it does. With hydrogen therapy, it is tailor-made, it's versatile, and that is a beautiful thing, and that's what makes it so profound.
I love that. That's like makes it sound like it's just inherently intelligent as an element, which is an interesting idea behind it, because yeah, like with vitamin C or any vitamin, it has one function, that's what it's doing. But with this, you're saying that it is going to be reading your personal biology, like how your biology is functioning currently, and it's going to fill in the pieces for you. So is that what I'm getting? I think... Do we lose you, Will?
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
muted, Will. Yeah.
I
would agree with that. I was actually just thinking it's almost like this kind of a biological nanotechnology that just was striking me as I was listening to you describe that, because that's kind of what it's doing, only in a positive way. When you think of nanotech, you think of like some creepy something that they spray in the air and it's like, doing all this stuff in your body, but it's like this nanotechnology that's molecular, that's natural, that can get a reading of what's going on inside you and give you exactly what you need.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something more to explore. And this is going to give me quite a lot of homework, guys, to go in and research a bunch of this information on my own time as well. But just to continue on, well, I wanted to ask, with your main goals for Ostara and how you would like it to grow, do you have any idea of, of course the main target would be everybody, but like, do you have like a target of people you would really like to affect here and like really get this information out there to? And, how like open would you guys be to, branching out and like, even working with some of the larger medical institutions that we have set in place? Like, because as I said, like places like UCLA, they opened an entire branch of acupuncture treatment and acupuncture doctors. So I think this is a growing thing with them and something that people are trying to, build into the institution, because this is the system that they know, but how well that'll work. I'd like to know your take on like who you would really like this information to get to. And so...
Yeah, I can speak to that. Obviously, we want to reach as many people as possible, but we are realistic about who is most likely to actually understand the value proposition of hydrogen therapy. And I would say that would be number one, probably just people that have pre-existing conditions. Someone like you, Sarah, who has was it cystic fibrosis? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Cystic fibrosis. So that was a thought I had earlier. Like, I have a genetic condition. It's a genetic. You're born with it. The gene is just mutated. So with that comes, like, say for instance, we touched on this a little bit. This isn't a cure for something like this, but it will maintain all of the complications that can come from that. And that is, right. With something like inherently born pre-existing conditions, that's the difference, and people should keep this in their heads that way. So continue.
Yeah, therapy is such a perfect word for it, because, it says exactly what it's doing. It's like, say you did something, you went for a walk and you said, wow, that was really therapeutic. You didn't say, well, that cured me of something. It was just beneficial. That's just what it is. So yeah, to answer your question fully, like I said, number one, people with pre-existing conditions, and then people, I guess, the elderly, because just with age, the more you get up there in years, the more you're going to start running into issues, just because the body starts breaking down. And then number three, I would say just really health enthusiasts, people that kind of go the extra mile already, that are willing to kind of try unconventional approaches to health, biohackers, and things like that. I would say that's kind of like the big three that would be most interested in this. Will, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well said. Logan did a good job of kind of getting down to the specifics. And Logan, like in our mission statement of awareness, access, and activation, that awareness, that education category first, right? I mean, this is one of the beautiful things about technology, where, we can do a podcast, we can do seminars, we can do presentations that can go out to the whole world. But, specifically here in the West, that's one of our goals, is to be a primary source of information, access, and activation. And we hold those principles of integrity, where we're connected with the right kind of research centers. For instance, Molecular Hydrogen Institute. Everyone should be checking that website out. They're the leader. It's a nonprofit organization, but they're a leader in the research and the clinical data of molecular hydrogen. So, it's good to focus on specifics, like who is this for? Obviously, the people that are, running with it now, that are really engaged, are the health enthusiasts, people that are into that proactive approach, and also people that want natural modalities, right? To aid in their just wellness journey or dealing with a pre-existing condition. Molecular hydrogen can benefit anyone and anyone. Like I said earlier, children, infants, pregnancy, etc. So it's pets. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Pets, for sure. Lots of studies on animals healing and their, regulating their quality of life through molecular hydrogen. So, and what's cool about hydrogen therapy is the modalities on how the therapy you can take it, right? You can take it through water. Saline is another method, but that's not really commonly used. Primarily it's drinking water that has the gas dissolved into the water, or breathing it, which is by far the most potent, because you're breathing the gas in its natural state. It's almost 700 to 900 times more potent than drinking it. You can only drink a certain amount of water in a day, or you should, so you can get a lot more potency, concentration through the inhalation. And, Logan and I have taken all of as much research as we can into consideration when we step into a category of access, right? We want the ethical components, we want the safety, we want the productivity of the device to be efficient and have and durability and longevity.
Yes.
And also, provide both gas inhalation and water drinking. So, what's easier than that? To breathe and drink. We do that every day. So not only is this, this is an easy therapy to incorporate in your daily routine and your daily life.
Yeah. It's non-invasive. It's, it's not like you have to take put a shot in, like someone who takes insulin, for example. It's non-invasive. It's very convenient. Is really, it couldn't get much better than that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I was just thinking it'd be interesting to know if there were, what kind of, because I do agree. I think a lot of studies are going to start coming out about stuff like this. We're going to start hearing more about genuine, healthier modes of getting and receiving healthcare. I think it's going to be somewhat forced into the mainstream institutional world because people are starting to demand these kind of things. And it would be interesting to know how this would work for babies, children who are being born, and instead of being, vaccinated, then they are receiving this kind of therapy instead. And to see how that, from the very get-go, how that helps the baby develop and grow and be healthier generally in the world. Because that's one of the things I notice, immediately, even with, pregnant mothers, they get immediately, medicated and, with all kinds of stuff. And it's a problem, and I think it's coming to a head. So I think people should really be watching the environment to see what comes out about these kind of, healthier treatments and what happens with it. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was you mentioned saline, which I think is just a phenomenal natural healthcare treatment. I'm on saline. I've been on saline for years and years, and I use it through a nebulizer. And I take something called a hypertonic saline, which is really just, salt water, really. And salt has such great health benefits. And I actually replaced the hypertonic, or I replaced things like albuterol, which I think is highly toxic to the system. And I replaced it with hypertonic saline, and it changed everything. So just that those kind of small changes can really affect everything. So with this kind of treatment, the benefits of it are, sound kind of endless to me. And I think that, and it's natural, and there's no negative side effects. And I think that's really what people want. And it's hard to find that because it can take years and years just to make these kind of little changes in your own self, for your own self.
Yeah, for sure. Molecular hydrogen it's also a good addition to other therapies as well. For instance, let's say your, supplements, minerals, fulvic, humic, or whatever it may be. It has shown that it actually amplifies the bioavailability of those supplements as well, and amongst other therapies. So another kind of added bonus. But I think you're right, Sarah, for sure. We're going to see this uptick in natural modalities. It's already there and it's just going to increase. I think there's even almost, I would even say in my own opinion, that there is an imbalance, meaning that, there's information deprivation is what we like to call it. When you're in that realm of quote unquote biohacking or natural modalities, there's so much information, red light therapy, coffee enemas, like all this stuff. And I'm not saying that, a lot of those are great and they have benefits, but the information can be very overwhelming because there's all these different therapies, there's all these modalities, and that's why it is crucial to have that education of what something actually does, and is it right for you, but is it getting down to that causal level? And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about H2, molecular hydrogen, is because it can do that.
Mm-hmm. Did we already talk about the AAA mission statement and break all of that down?
Not in detail, but I mean, if Sarah's open for it, I'm totally down.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
please do.
So we, and it's funny because I love this process. It's an ongoing process. So when we started, it was just the first two A's, awareness and access, and then we added the third, which is activation, not that long ago, because we realized that that's just as important. And so I'll explain that. So awareness is, just the education aspect of it. We touched on a little bit here already. So we have the podcast, we have the webinar, we have tons of studies and scientific material posted to our website as well under the resources tab. So anyone can check that out if you're interested in looking, don't just take our word for it. It's all there. And so just being a resource for people to disseminate all of the new studies that are coming out and putting it into a very digestible, easy to understand format. And then, of course, access, meaning we show you, we offer the best machines that are hydrogen generators that you can have in your home and get daily access for you and your family and your pets. And, we went through that rigorous process of vetting different manufacturers and picking the best machines that we could partner with to bring that access to the people. But we realized that without action, knowing is not enough, right? You have to use the knowledge that you have. You have to use the technology that you have access to. And so we wanted to put that emphasis on inspiring, encouraging people to get involved, to try it out for themselves, and also to cultivate a community of other people that are doing the same, because that's the easiest way to be consistent with anything. It's like if you're trying to hit your fitness goals and you're just working out in your house with no trainer or anything, you can do it, but it's going to be a lot harder than if you went to a gym and worked out in a group of people. They're all encouraging each other. You've got a trainer there, giving you tips and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be a big part of what we want to get to. We're still new, so we're still very much just kind of in the early stages, and we haven't built up a strong following yet of that brand awareness. But that is the next. That's what we really envision for Ostara, is building a community of other people that are using it. They're sharing their testimonials and experiences with it, and then of course interacting with us and continuing to be have a front row seat to us continuing to share the new information, because it's not just about what's out there. As we've already said, there's going to be more and more studies. There's always going to be new information, new discoveries coming out. And we have taken it upon ourselves to make sure that we can have our finger on the pulse of this developing world of hydrogen and be some of the first to sort of distribute and disseminate that information to people.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, I think that's definitely going to grow for sure. And we're going to get a lot more coming out. And to just grow it just by word of mouth can sometimes be the greatest advertisement you can have. Like I found just telling people about this stuff and allowing them to have the space to go and look into it for themselves can really be quite beneficial when getting the word out about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So we had a couple of questions, and it looked like Will was able to answer one in our chat room. The is H2 water similar to the water heated by sunlight?
I can add more to that. I know I put some in the chat, but I can kind of go over it real quick here live. Because Logan and I both like to do this, right? When we say something is natural, a natural modality, that would also imply that you could observe it in nature, right? Maybe on a smaller level or a bigger level, right? So the question is H2 water similar to water heated by sunlight? No, it is not. It's far more potent because you are putting the source H2 gas infused or dissolved into the water, then drinking it. Now, you can go down a rabbit hole, and we understand the sun is comprised of hydrogen, and light is high potency hydrogen itself, right? So that would, yes, at a very, very small level, but technically, no, it is not.
In terms of therapeutic,
and yeah, in terms of therapeutic, exactly, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'd say this is, I'd say you could double this up with, general sunlight if you're just outside taking in all that nice sunlight into you, because that can be quite beneficial in itself, just on its own.
Definitely. And drinking the water that has been heated by sunlight does not function how molecular hydrogen gas would function in the body, right? We have all these systems in our body, and this is why alkalinity, that's kind of a legit scam. Alkaline water. Oh, if you drink, a 9.5 pH, it has all these therapeutic benefits. No, it doesn't. It goes into your mouth, down your throat, into your gut, and it is immediately neutralized to the stomach's pH level. Each part of our body has its own level of pH, and all of that together is around 7.4, which is slightly alkaline, but that is absolutely not the case, and it's not the same as molecular hydrogen.
Yeah, that would be definitely good for people because I know people who drink alkaline water, and they're convinced it's the right water to be drinking, but I was never too into it myself, and something I never really thought that it had a lot of benefits, but there is a lot of information out there that's promoting alkaline water as very healthy.
Well, all the water bottles that say
it's a great business model. You take filtered water and you add cheap sodium bicarbonate or baking soda, and wow, now you have alkaline water. It's very, very cheap to produce, and then they can double the price and sell it back to people that are, drinking that Kool-Aid.
Right. Yep. Right. And there's a lot of companies who they claim to have like the cleanest, purest water, and it's just fluorinated water, tap water that they put into their bottled waters, and I'm like, don't trust that. And there are people who they buy full stock into it. But we have another quick question too. Or do you have a link to the hydrogen therapy website you were recommending? So yeah, let's see if we can pull that up real quick. We could throw that into the chat.
Ostara Hydrogen Therapy. You can get to all of our content, all of the resources And I'm not sure if that question was referring to Molecular Hydrogen Institute. If
Yes,
you really
I
want to
think so.
dive, scientifically, you can go to that website and see all of the studies, and which we also have the studies and the clinical data we have linked on our website as well, hydrogentherapy.com or ostarahydrogen.com.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, so to be redirected to the other studies in the Institute, just check out their website. This is in our link. We have a few more minutes. I didn't know if you guys wanted to add a little bit more to this and, plug the work, of course. We got a few more minutes, maybe about 5 minutes or so. So if you guys wanted to add in.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, I would just like to invite anyone to, follow us on YouTube or maybe Spotify and check out the podcast. We'll be creating more short and specific type videos as well. So starting to kind of get more granular with different conditions, how hydrogen can help with this and that and these different things, dispelling the common myths, stuff like that. So if you just want to kind of begin almost like a passive way to start continuing your education on hydrogen, because it's not going anywhere, you might as well stay ahead of the curve and join us on whatever platform you prefer. So just in our link tree, all of our links are there, and they're also on the website as well. So that would be my thing, is join the webinar and get on the email list, because we'll be sending out just valuable information there as well, and then just checking out our content.
Absolutely, and I've thrown a few of those links here into our chat. Thanks everybody for being here as well. Will, do you have a few words for us?
Logan said it great. Thanks for having us on, and I would just kind of implore people to come on this journey with us. Educate yourself first and foremost on what molecular hydrogen is, its modalities, the therapeutic devices. We talk about all of that. It's all encompassing. So absolutely go to the website, check out the webinar, and reach out to us, right? We definitely want to have that level of engagement and answer questions and communicate with people. And, we look forward to seeing you all there.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has been really fun. Thank you for having us, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming and joining me for another great show on CrossTalk. And I always like having new stuff like this come onto the show to just, bring awareness to these sorts of things, especially when they're health related. And so, anybody who is listening and comes across this later on, even, please share with everybody, everybody really, even the people who don't want to hear it, that's my thing. Usually I'm talking to people who don't want to hear it, but because I feel like these are the people who might need it the most. But, sharing it with people who are definitely interested in this because they know that they can benefit from, better quality of health and just things that help them to, function optimally, I think is really, really important. So I have to thank Will and Logan for both taking the time to come in and talking about this. And please, everybody, go and check out those links. Their website will have everything. And yeah, I mean, what more is there to really say about that except for, even though life is not guaranteed, we're not guaranteed to have like the most optimal of any kind of health. We come into these expressions, with parameters. So but to maintenance it and to be prudent while we are here can change everything. So I hear our end coming in. This is our cue. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time on CrossTalk. Later.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.